but first to the case of Daniel Perry in Texas. Perry's an Army sergeant who was driving for Uber in Austin during the 2020 Black Lives Matter riots. A mob surrounded his car in the middle of the street, and we know this because parts of what happened next are captured on video. One rioter closed in and raised his AK-47 in Perry's direction. Perry responded to the threat to his life, shot and killed the man in self-defense. The local DA, Soros-backed, charged Perry with murder for that, and last week Perry was convicted.
Daniel Perry's family in shock, crying over the fact that he had just been convicted of murder for killing protester Garrett Foster in 2020. Perry himself unable to hide his emotion, hugging his attorney as he cried.
State, is there a motion?
The state wasting no time.
Jury, I'm asking the defendant be remanded into custody at this point.
Perry was turned over into the custody of the Travis County Sheriff's Office, handcuffed instantly.
So you're not allowed to defend yourself against BLM rioters, even when they point a rifle at you. That's the lesson. But of course, that lesson is incompatible with justice. And so to his credit, the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, has announced that he will pardon Daniel Perry. It's a little more complicated in Texas. Perry is behind bars tonight, but the governor has instructed the Pardons Board to work on an expedited review. That's required by law in Texas in order for a pardon to occur. But he is pardoning this man. That is obviously the right thing to do. George Soros can't pay for people to put his political opponents in jail and then have a Republican governor ignore it. It's outrageous. But of course, Democrats think he should be convicted of murder because one of their voters got killed. Now, everyone involved in this was the same color, white. But of course, Greg Abbott is a racist for some reason for pardoning Perry. Watch this.
I understand what Abbott is doing. So much of this here, go back to Galveston, Texas, and you're going to find out what happened. Remember, it was in Texas that black folks were kept into slavery over 2 years after they had been freed.
This is what we're dealing with in this country. This is why you ended up having a Black Lives Matter protest in the first place. Seemingly, the Republicans do not believe in being hard on crime when it comes to certain folk, right? Seemingly, they only want to be hard on crime when they are poor, when they are black, when they are brown.
If Daniel Perry gets pardoned for murder in Texas, it'll really only be because he killed the right kind of person, the person that right-wingers don't care about. That is a Black Lives Matter protester.
But the guy who was shot was white. Like, this is insane. And by the way, Congressman Clyburn does not get the credit that he deserves for being completely dishonest, ignoble, and also totally corrupt. He was promoting his daughter for government jobs. So the Texas Pardons Board is now reviewing Daniel Perry's pardon. They're not watching MSNBC, we hope. But we wanted to speak to one of the few people who knows tonight what Daniel Perry is going through, sitting behind bars for defending himself. Kyle Rittenhouse lived that experience. He joins us tonight. Kyle Rittenhouse, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Tucker.
So here you have a guy, I don't think there's really any debate. The protester who was killed raised a rifle at him, is exactly what happened with you. How do you think Daniel Perry feels tonight sitting in jail?
I can only imagine. He's probably sitting there wondering what happened. He defended himself. He knows what he did was right. You have a man with an AK-47 and over 120 rounds of ammo on his person, dressed just for war, as some people might say, with the rifle strapped, the AK-47, raising it towards Daniel Perry, who is in flip-flops and beach shorts, carrying a revolver. And nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to mention that he was armed. I see a lot of reports just saying he fired indiscriminately into a crowd and he drove into a bunch of rioters. They don't want to talk about how he was swarmed, how his car was swarmed with a bunch of rioters trying to attack him.
As he was driving for Uber, I mean, the least powerful person in our society, attacked by one of the worst people in our society who's out there rioting. As in your case, you were trying to defend a used car lot, and a convicted child molester tried to kill you, and they took the convicted child molester's side. Do you see parallels here?
Absolutely, and you see the double standard in this case. People aren't talking about the fact of the second person who attacked Daniel Perry. After Sergeant Daniel Perry defended himself against Garrett Foster, he was then shot at 3 times by a person who was never charged by the Travis County DA. Somebody who recklessly fired a slew of shots at Daniel Perry's car, and they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about the recklessness of that, and they don't want to charge him. It's a double standard, and it's not okay.
He fired 3 shots in the middle of a city, but that's totally fine. Okay. Kyle Rittenhouse, thank you for adding to our knowledge of this story. Appreciate it. Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens, stories that are changing the world and changing your life. From Tucker Carlson tonight.